Draft day. It is here. We are here to talk a little bit about the Chicago Bears and who they need to be focused, type of positions they need to focus on in the draft. This is a Zachless Bear down just because of scheduling conflicts. So, Zach, if you're listening to this or you see this, I am so sorry. I wanted to hop on and give my thoughts real quick. Me and Zach for sure are going to hop on and do a Bear Down segment of our reaction to who the Bears have drafted and the roster that will be put together as we head into the summer. I just want to get some quick thoughts out on the Bears and who I think they need to focus on or the position they need to focus on in this draft. So this is the Bear Down segment of the Coach Steve Show. So make sure you like and subscribe to the Coach Steve Show YouTube channel. And there's a playlist there for the Bear Down segments for everything Chicago Bears, with some with just me, but some with me and my, co-host for that, Zach Kyleman, fellow Bears fan, fellow podcaster. So check that out. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Leave a 5-star review on Apple and iTunes on the Coach Steve Show. It's greatly appreciated. So draft day is here. The Chicago Bears have made some moves. We have, check out other episodes where we discuss the roster moves they have made. So with the roster moves the Bears have made, the question is, who should they be focusing on in this draft? Now, the Bears have a lot of holes that they do need to fix, and they're not all going to get fixed in this draft. The moves that were made this offseason have been some good moves, but we still have some holes to fix. So I still think there's some depth issues that the Bears need to address, and whoever we draft is not going to fix everything. Now, there some articles were written and some draft boards and everything. Some of the big question marks that people have written for the Bears, and I'm going to let you guys form your own opinion of heading into the draft. One of the positions they've written about that really needs to be focused on is center for the Chicago Bears, because there's some questions. Sam Mustipher is officially out, and Cody Whitehair, he's positioned to start at center for the first time. But, we all know how Cody Whitehair is, but we also have Doug Kramer, who was hurt last season. He was the center for the University of Illinois, played his entire career there, did not leave early. I think that he is poised to be a center as well. I still think they need to give him a chance. So they've written a center as a need. Cornerback has been a need. I think that's more depth because, we have Kyle Gordon. We have, you know, he had a great rookie season, but, you know, injury prone a little bit. Jalen Johnson did well, but I think that's more of a depth situation. Interior defensive line, which I think is a huge need. This is ranked as number 3 as one of the needs for the Chicago Bears, the interior defensive line, because we did not get any pressure and hard time stopping the run. It was really hard to look at the Chicago Bears and say, what's going on with this defense? No matter how quote unquote bad the Bears have ever been, to not be able to, we've always had a good defense, so not be able to stop the run. Um, so the Bears, it says interior offensive line is ranked at number 3. Number 2 is offensive tackle as another need for the Chicago Bears. Again, I think it's just more depth and it's just the consistency of the O line. And then the number 1 written part for the Chicago Bears is an edge rusher. And it really goes, now we have the interior line to talk about defending the run, but then the edge rusher to really get pressure onto the quarterback because the Bears only had 20 sacks in 17 games. The safety rookie, Jaquan Brinsker, had led the team in sacks with 4. Wendy, have you ever heard of a safety really leading the team in sacks, especially for the Bears? You always have a linebacker or defensive end to really cause havoc. So that is written for the needs of the Chicago Bears. So the question becomes, in the first round, they have the number 9 pick. Who would be one of the people or the position that you think that they really need to focus on? And I find it interesting that a lot of people are going towards the defensive side because of how much they complained about the offensive line this year. They complained about the offensive line at the very beginning of the year, blaming every single thing on them for anything bad with Justin Fields was blamed on the offensive line. Justin Fields could do no wrong. But now, as the season progressed, it was less comparable. They were not complaining as much on the O line. Then it started to really push on towards the defensive line, which we already knew was bad. The offensive line started to come together, but early on in the year, they did struggle, but they were moving people around. There were some injuries. people playing tackle, playing guard, guard playing tackle, some playing for a little bit, some getting subbed out. And offensive line is that group that you can't really sub out a lot. And a lot of people think that the offensive line, it's just easy to be the right tackle and all of a sudden go to the left tackle. And I guess it can be and cannot be. It can be easy because the rules stay the same. When you're thinking about a run blocking scheme perspective, well, if you're running inside zone right and you're the right tackle, and then you go to left tackle and you run inside zone left, well, it's the same blocking rules, but the difference is the footwork, the angles, where you get your hands, everything else. Then, especially different when you have a right-handed quarterback and you're the left tackle now having to protect the blind side. All those type of things. So that part of it mentally and everything else does become more difficult. So when you move guys around, there is no cohesiveness. It's not like some podcasters out there where I can't remember the podcast name now, where offensive line is just it's the easiest position to get acquainted to, and they're just big guys pushing people around. That just proves somebody that doesn't know football whatsoever. And they don't even matter. I can't remember the name. So it's funny that a lot of people are really pushing um, not getting an offensive lineman at the very beginning, even though that's the biggest position that we have complained about. Now, would it be the worst thing to get a good defensive lineman, whether it's interior or an edge rusher in the first round? No, um, I don't think that would be a horrible thing. For me personally, um, I think they have to look at an offensive lineman because I think that you could find decent edge rushers or defensive linemen later on in the draft. And it could be said the same for an defensive lineman if you that's the first one. The Bears don't pick till number 9. They got that pick from Carolina and they made the deal. So now Carolina is up to the number 1 pick. So Chicago Bears have the 9th pick in the first round of the draft. Um, then they don't pick again the rest of the first round. We don't see them again until the second round at number 22, and then we'll see them again at number 30 in the second round for that pick. Or excuse me, you'll see them the number 22 pick in the second round, which would be number 53 overall. And then you'll see them at number 30 in the second round, number 61 overall. I apologize for saying that different. So you'd have to take a risk no matter what. If you picked a defensive lineman, you may have to be okay with an offensive lineman that is going to be falling down and vice versa. And so it does become which exactly is going to be a big need. Where do you think we're struggling the most? And again, it's funny because a lot of the shows of the Bears, they flip flop where they blame the O line. Well, then they blame the wide receivers. But then the wide receivers started to play a little better, and then the O line started to play a little better. Then at the end of the year, they really started to figure out things that Justin Fields needs to work on. And now all of a sudden, it's not about the O line, it's about they need to go a different position. So, where do you think they really struggle at? And who is one of these change your culture or change anything um type of player, changing is there an offensive lineman to come in that's going to change everything? Is there a defensive tackle or an edge rusher that's going to come in and just change everything? For the defensive line perspective, Jalen Carter from Georgia, he is 6'3", 314 pounds. He ran a 4.9 640. That could be a guy to come in as a defensive lineman and really change that D line. He is high on a lot of people's draft boards. He's ranked number 1 in the defensive line. Another guy that could come in and really make an impact from the D line is Myles Murphy because he can play defensive end / an outside edge rusher. Like a regular defensive end where he's attached to the tackle, and then he can be very far out wide, kind of like a Khalil Mack position. He's 268 pounds, 6'5". He ran a 4.53 40. He's ranked number 2 on the board. So those are some people that you could look at that number 9 draft pick and say this guy could really come in and change some of that D line, and especially from Clemson and a Georgia that play in big time games and play for big time programs. If you look at an offensive lineman perspective, they were really all the Bears personnel and coaches were there to watch. Peter Skronowski, the offensive tackle from Northwestern. He's 313 pounds. He's 6'4". He ran a 5.1 640. He's pretty high up, sometimes number 1 on the draft boards. They came and watched him. He's playing at Northwestern. That's in the city. Very good offensive tackle. Having to watch him in the Big Ten. Good at everything. Good at run blocking. Good at pass protecting. He would just be a very good overall player. And I think he could come in and really help out any type of offensive tackle. And you can move Tevin Jenkins into that guard spot and put this guy and put Peter at an offensive tackle position. And he could come in and potentially start right away. And playing in the type of system at Northwestern, being there, I think he could really fit into the mold of what the Bears want to do offensively. The other offensive lineman that could come in and really make an impact is Paris Johnson Jr. He's an offensive tackle at Ohio State. Same thing, 313 pounds. He's 6'6". He ran a faster 40 at 5.05 40. He's ranked number 2 on the board. He's a 5-star recruit. He brings athleticism. So in the run game, you're looking at athleticism there, the speed to get to the offensive or the defensive end. That's the type of guy that you could bring in. Or a Broderick Jones, offensive tackle from Georgia, playing in big-time games, won national championship. He's one of the best athletes in the entire offensive line group. He ran a 4.97 40. He's strong. There was a writing that he has a cat-like reflexes. So any of those 3, I think, could really make an impact for the offensive line. So it just comes down to, for you and your opinion and what the Bears think, if you draft one of these guys, is there going to be another defensive player later on or another offensive player later on in the draft for them to go after? And I don't think they need to really look at early on the wide receivers or anything like that, because you have running backs, you have wide receivers. So I think unless you're way later on in the draft and you obviously want to add some depth to that, absolutely. I know Coach Eberflus is probably looking at the defensive line because he's a defensive coach, and that's exactly who he's probably going to be looking at. But I think those has to be the top 2. So I think the report on that, for that being the top 2, is absolutely correct. I know center was written there, but you have Cody Whitehair, Doug Kramer coming off of an injury. I think that will help out there. But I don't see them trading Justin Fields to go for a quarterback. I don't see them doing that at all. So it depends on your opinion. I personally think that they need to look at an offensive lineman. I think that for the sole reason of I don't want to listen to people complain about the offensive line anymore. I want to see. I thought when they drafted Justin Fields that an offensive line was where we were struggling. That I thought that had the most need, and so I'm tired. I don't want to listen to people complain about it anymore. And I think that if you draft an offensive lineman in that first round, you can find a defensive lineman later on in the draft. And I think you can find some that can hold down the fort until we, in free agency, until we could really solidify this. And then when you look at, the projections, the Jalen Carter may even get drafted by Seattle. Shout out to Devin Witherspoon, cornerback for Illinois. They're projecting him to go to the Detroit Lions. I think that'd be really awesome. There's a draft board here projected for the Chicago Bears. they're projected that they're going to take Tyree Wilson, Texas Tech defensive edge rusher. That's not a bad pick either by the time they get there. So a lot of people are thinking that they're going to go the defensive line. I think they should go offensive line, in my opinion, but that's the projection there. Um, because you also have to look at the needs of other people. And here's how high he could go. Peter Skolowski, they're projected he could go to the Jets at number 15 to protect Aaron Rodgers. That's how good he is. And he could play offensive tackle or inside. You could put Kevin Jenkins. I said he could go to guard. You could put this guy in a guard. You could flip flop. Jenkins or him could be an offensive tackle or a guard. So that's why I really liked him because he's very versatile. I think you could put him in anywhere in any spot. So that's just a projection board that people have. And so there's really no right or wrong way here, but you form your own opinion. I think they should pick Peter Skolowski, the offensive tackle from Northwestern. I think that's the route to go just because it's versatile. You could figure out the offensive line and really solidify that. And again, not everything for the Bears is going to get fixed all at once. And we have to be okay with that as Bears fans. We have to understand not everything's going to get fixed through this free agency so far. It's not going to get fixed through the draft. We can add some depth. We can add some young guys and just build off of that. And hopefully we can get to like some 5 to 8 wins this year and maybe surprise some games. Maybe we sneak away to a wild card, something like that. It's the next year. It's that third year where what type of free agents are out there? Does Justin Fields take that next step? Does more players present themselves in the draft? How's the free agent market going to look at that point in time? So those are the type of things I think we need to look at. So for me, I think they need to pick the Northwestern Peter Skolowski from the draft. Then they can figure out their defensive line part later. So I think that's just kind of who they need to look for. But they do need to address offensive line and defensive line first before I think they do anything else. And then just slowly maybe sign guys to a year or two if they want a year or just a year deal. If they want to add depth to the Bears, that way they can survive this season and get through that. So I just wanted to address who I think they should take at the beginning. I don't want to sit here and say who they're going to take and do all this stuff and do all this work because it just never works out. It's never going to be right. We don't know. But the needs, I think they need to focus on offensive line and then defensive line and then just start going down that list. We have wide receivers. We can sign guys to a year deal. We can add some depth if we need to. But those are the spots I think they need to be going to. So that'll wrap up this episode. Sorry, Zach, if you've seen this or listened. I just had to get my thoughts out there very quickly. Me and Zach, 110% will have a reaction podcast to who they draft and talk about who they got, what does the roster look like, everything like that. And then throughout the summer, we'll hop on and talk more about the Bears. What do we think? And then when we get into the season, we'll continue this Bear Down segment. So make sure you like and subscribe to the Coach Steve Show YouTube channel. Follow and rate on the Coach Steve Show, Apple and iTunes. 5-star review would help tremendously. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Follow at Coach_Steve72 on Twitter. Check out all the affiliate description below. Check out the playlist, the Bear Down segment, everything Chicago Bears. So thank you guys again for watching and or listening. This is Coach Steve. Sorry, Zach. You 100% will be there next time. And we'll see you guys on that next episode.